You are listening to The World as I See It podcast. 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 As I See It.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The World as I See It podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that I don't think that I've ever really touched on in this podcast. And I'm sure it's a question that a lot of people wonder about, even if they're a bit hesitant to ask. Does being blind ever actually scare you? So, the short answer is no, not necessarily. It's a fair question, and my answer might be different than what you're expecting. It's not necessarily about the fact that blindness is scary. Personally, I wouldn't describe it that way. The best way that I could explain it is that it's more about confidence, or maybe sometimes the temporary lack of it. And it's also those moments of uncertainty. And it's not a matter of me being a nervous person. It's more about how much confidence I have in a specific situation or uncertainty, and how, overstimulated the world can get sometimes. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So I do something called orientation and mobility, or O&M. And most of you probably don't know what that is, but it's basically training where I work with an instructor to learn how to navigate the world safely using my cane. And when I'm, out with my instructor doing city travel, it can be more overwhelming than any other types of travel that I've done, because I haven't done a lot of city travel yet. And there's so much sensory information just happening all at once. I'm listening for, the surge of engines to know when the light has changed. I'm, feeling for the slope of the curb with my cane. I'm tracking the echoes off the buildings to make sure that I'm walking in the straight line and not veering into the street. Or I'm using the GPS, listening to it to help me get directions while also listening to traffic. Doing things like that. So think about it like this. Imagine you moved to a new city after living in a small town your whole life. Or you started a brand new job. You don't know anybody. And it's a lot different. And it's much, faster pace than what you're used to. And that's kind of how I feel when I do orientation and mobility sometimes. Now, I will say, it's not always like that. But definitely in those new environments, in those moments when I'm still building, the memory, my confidence, it may dip a little. I may feel uncertain. I may feel a bit of, unsure of my next move. But that's not fear. It's just me trying to focus on everything around me all at one time. And yes, it sounds like a lot. There are days where absolutely it is a lot. And there are days where it's not a lot, because I've been doing it my whole life. And even when I feel less confident in the moment, it doesn't mean that I stop or that I'm scared of being in that place. Because whenever I go back to a spot where I've felt less certain and I do it again, I travel it again, I feel more confident each and every time. So, is it scary? No. Are there days where I'm unsure or it's challenging and hard? Yes, Absolutely. But I still keep going and I still keep pushing forward because that's the only way that I will learn and to get better. Another example, and something a lot of you can probably relate to, is being in a massive crowd. Imagine, we're at a huge amusement park. It's loud, there's people rushing in every direction, kids are screaming, and there's music just blasting from the speakers overhead. Now, imagine I'm there with a family member, and they have to step away for a second to get their bags checked or go through security. In that moment, when I'm standing there alone in the middle of all that chaos, it's not that I'm scared, it's just very overwhelming. And in a situation like that, I'm aware that I can't see the person walking toward me looking at their phone. And I can't see the staff member waving people toward, a different gate. And that's when I feel very uncertain and I feel less confident in my surroundings. But I want to be very clear about something. Just because I feel overstimulated or overwhelmed doesn't mean I want to stay home. It doesn't mean that I only want to go places that aren't crowded, because that's not stopping me from going to concerts or amusement parks or anything like that. I'm still going to show up and enjoy those things. It just means I have to work a little harder to stay focused. I also think about the weather. Most people think that rain or wind is just an annoyance because you get wet or your hair gets messed up. But for me, it's a major sensory change. When it's really windy, it creates sound shadows, and the wind, it masks the echoes that I rely on to find, walls or to listen to traffic. And it drowns out the sound of traffic. So I have to listen extra hard, I guess you could say. And so on those days, I have to be even more calculated. It's not that the wind is scary, but it's definitely a moment where I have to slow down, take a breath, and really focus to make sure I'm staying on the path. Now, some people may be thinking, what about in an extreme situation? Would blindness be scary then? And the truth is, yes, blindness could be scary in a moment like an extreme situation. But specifically, it would be scary if I didn't have my cane or the tools that I needed. In that moment, if I was without my cane, the tool that I needed to use to navigate safely, that is when blindness would feel scary. And since I've been blind my whole life, I've adapted and learned how to rely on my hearing and my other senses. But my cane is the connection to my surroundings and to getting around safely. And as long as I have my tools and my training, I feel capable. The fear only really enters the picture when you take away the resources that I rely on to stay safe. And I'll be honest, I actually feel for the people who had sight before they lost it. They had to readapt to everything. Before they really fully learned how to navigate that new reality, I feel like blindness would have been scary for them. Not in extreme situations, but just in general. Because it's different, when you have sight and then you don't have sight. If you lose your sight later in life, you're suddenly losing the foundation that you stood on your whole life. You have to relearn how to trust the world all over again and how to navigate. Whereas for me, this has always been my normal. And part of how I stay grounded is learning how to trust my intuition. Whenever I talk to strangers, I rely on that gut feeling because I can usually tell when somebody means well or when they give me a vibe that says, go away. I don't have, the luxury of seeing a smile or a frown. So I have to trust my gut, what it tells me. I'm constantly reading the tone of their voice or the way someone's footsteps approach. And it's a different way of seeing the world. And while it takes more energy, it's how I stay aware and safe. The takeaway that I want you to have is this. Being blind isn't a horrible thing. It doesn't make me a fearful person. It makes me a calculated person. It makes me someone who values preparation and focus. When I'm doing my orientation and mobility training and the city feels like too much, I breathe, I find my landmark, and I keep going. When I'm at an amusement park and I'm waiting for my family to come back, I stand tall, I keep my cane ready, and I stay focused on my environment. And we all have things that make us feel less confident. We all have moments where we feel overwhelmed by our own lives, whether that's a new job, a difficult situation, or just a day where everything feels like it's moving too fast. That's just a part of life. The only real danger is letting those feelings convince you that you aren't capable of handling the situation. I might have to pay more attention than you do. I might have to plan my, routes more carefully. And yeah, I have moments where I'm not sure exactly where I am, but I'm still out there. I'm still moving. I'm still showing up. It's a constant exercise in building confidence and learning how to trust yourself even when the world gets loud. So, does it scare me? No. But does it challenge me? Yes. Every day. Some days it's very easy, other days it's difficult. But that's not going to stop me from doing anything and everything that I want to do and that I need to do. It's not going to stop me from learning, even when I feel uncertain or when my confidence is not very high during those times where things get overstimulating. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it. And I also value your feedback, and I would like some constructive criticism. What do you not like about the podcast? What do you love about it? And what can I improve on? Be honest. What's a topic that you want me to cover, or any idea you want me to talk about? If you're on YouTube, you can comment, or if you are on Spotify or any podcasting platforms, you can send me an email at theworldasIseeitpodcast@gmail.com. Nothing is offensive and nothing is going to be off limits. Thank you for listening. Stay curious, keep listening, and I will talk to you in the next episode.
You've been listening to The World as I See It podcast.